Hey fellas, Meat Trapper here. Now that the season's over, I'm going to start a new series, and what I'm going to do is trap reviews. In each episode, what I'll do is I'll take a trap that I'm using or considering using, and I'll review it and share my experience and opinions with it. And if you're interested in purchasing some of these traps, maybe it'll help you make your decision. Today, we're going to talk about the MB1216. The MB1216 is also known as the Mega Bear. It is an extra large, supersized body grip trap, and it is a beast. So let's take a look. Let's start with the overall dimensions. As you can guess by its name, the 1216, the trap is 12 inches tall and 16 inches across, compared to a standard body grip, a 330 body grip, which is a 10 by 10 body grip, and a Duke is a 10 by 9. So you can see you're going to get a lot of additional coverage from one of these traps. Now, as far as the fit, finish, and overall construction, I have to give this thing 5 stars. You can look at the thickness of the stock, and I mean, this is just incredibly thick. This is much thicker than the stock used on a regular body grip trap. When you go and you look at the joints, the hinges here, you can see this is actually bolted in. There's no cheap rivet here, and you can see that there's no slop or play in this hinge. It's got a washer. In fact, it's got 2 washers, one there, one there. A cheaper trap is just going to have a rivet through here, and there's going to be a lot of slop and play in there. Not so on the MB. Next, let's take a look at the trigger. Now, I love the trigger on this trap. You can see this has 3 nuts and bolts that hold the trigger on. Most of your triggers on a cheaper body grip trap are just going to have a single rivet, and when the trigger wire breaks, which happens because this is going to rust and break off sooner or later, you have to end up drilling out the rivet and replacing the trigger, and that's a real pain. With a trigger that has bolts on it, you simply take a screwdriver and a pair of pliers, unbolt it, and put the new trigger on. Most replacement triggers are going to have a single bolt. This one has 3, and you can see the type of nuts that this has. They're going to stay tightened. They're not going to back out. You don't have to worry about them coming loose. This also makes it very easy to adjust the tension on this trap as far as how much play or how easy to give is on this trigger. I give the trigger 5 stars. Wonderful design, and I love it. Now, one of the most striking features of this trap is the striker bar. Most body grip traps are simply going to have a bar on this side and a bar on this side, and when they come together, the animal is caught. On the MB1216, it has this additional bar that is welded here, goes all the way down, it's welded over here, and this provides additional striking power. You can see that's going to have a good tight fit right there. And once again, all the welds, if you examine everything, let's see if I can get close. I mean, welds are perfect. This is quality craftsmanship here. This trap is made in America by Americans, and you can tell. Now, on the other side, let's take a look at the trigger. Your trigger is a 2-notch trigger, and look at the thickness of that stock. This is easily twice as thick as the stock of a normal trigger on a normal body grip trap. This is not going to bend. I've made a number of catches with this trap already, and I can tell you there's no way this is going to bend from making a catch. No way. The other thing that you're going to notice is that there's no cut in here. This is not a crimped on trigger. This trigger is one single solid piece, and it is threaded on the bar at the time the trap is manufactured. This is not going to come off. It is not going to bend. I got to give this trigger 5 stars. I love it. Finally, let's talk about the safety. The safety, I have to say, I simply don't like. I cannot stand these safeties. On earlier versions of the Mega Bear and the Super Bear, the safeties that were shipped were soft, And what would happen is this portion right here would bend, and the trap could actually be unsafe, and because of the pressure of the springs, that could bend out and it could just fire. I've got a Super Bear at home that does that regularly. On the newer versions of this trap, that's been fixed, but the problem is twofold. Number one, I prefer the Belial safety, because the Belial safety, if you take it off and stand it up, it's going to stay where you put it. This safety won't. Now if you tighten the crimp right here, if you tighten that down where it will stay put when the safety is off, then it becomes difficult to disengage the safety. Now the way this trap is made, and I'll demonstrate this in just a second, when you go to set the trap and you've got the trigger engaged, this can be difficult to get off. I usually have to take a pair of pliers and knock this safety down towards the spring eyes just so that I can release the safety and set the trap. It's a real pain, and I wish they would do something about this. So let's take a look at how to set this trap. It sets just like any other body grip trap. Pull it together. Now, because of the additional distance afforded by this striker bar, what that means is this trap is very easy to hold together. It takes very little pressure to hold this trap together. So let's go ahead and engage the trigger. I'll put it on the second notch here. Get that good and set. Now at this point, I'm ready to remove the safeties and in place the trap. But as you can see, that's not budging, and I'm pushing. There we go. So I had to push with both thumbs to get that safety off. Now let's take a look at the other side. Now see, that one worked a little bit better, but I have to get it right up next to the spring eye to get it on or off. When that gets clogged with mud, when you're down in the mud, you can see it just doesn't want to cooperate. I have to fool with it. And when I'm paying top dollar for a trap, and these things retail for about $34, $35 a piece, when I'm paying top dollar for a trap, especially one is as big and aggressive as this, the last thing I want to do is I want to fight with safeties. I do not want to fight with safeties when I'm underwater, when I'm in the mud, in the cold, my fingers are numb. I want the safeties to be foolproof and fail-safe. The Belial safeties never let me down, and I find myself constantly fighting with these safeties. This is the single biggest problem that I have with this trap, and it's really the only negative that I have. They're just not user friendly. Belial 330, MB1216. That's a good shot of the difference in the size of the traps. You can see that'll cover a huge gap there, because that is a big trap. That's a full 10 by 10. It's not a Duke. That's an undersized 330. That's a Belial full size, and that's your MB1216. It's an expensive trap. It's heavy, but there are situations, like I showed you over there, that it is worth it. So, what's the deal with the MB1260? Is it the greatest trap ever made? Am I going to throw away my Belials and Dukes and switch over to all 1216s? No. I consider the trap to be a special purpose trap. First of all, it's expensive at $35 a piece. That's nothing to sneeze at, and theft would really hurt. Secondly, the trap is big, it's heavy, so you're going to get fewer body grip traps in the same area that you would for a regular size 330. And by area, I mean in your truck, a four-wheeler, a boat, kayak, however you're getting them in. And these things are made out of thicker stock, so You're not going to put a dozen of these in a backpack and tote them off through the woods. That's, at least I'm not at my age. So what do I use them for? Number one, deep water runs. Here in the south, a lot of times the beavers will den in the banks. They'll go in underwater, dig a tunnel, and when I'm doing ADC work, I've got to get down in the water and feel around with my feet and try and find that opening. And sometimes those openings can be quite wide. As a matter of fact, on a recent control job, I had an opening that was so wide that I had to plug it with two 330s side by side. And that's where these 1216s really shine. Instead of occupying two of my Belials, I could put one MB1216 and cover the entrance and be done with it. The other thing is, when you've got an entrance that's so wide that it takes two 330s, if the animal comes right down the middle, then he is going to hit the actual divider between the two traps. He's got to be slightly off center to one or to the other when you've got a trap on each side. But if you've got one big trap, it doesn't really matter where he's going to get caught. The other usage that I'm thinking about for these is Chip over at Expand-A-Pan Traps is making metal pans for these traps. And I think when you remove the trigger wires out of the way and you put a pan on it, you could block a slide and it would just be a tremendous open area that any beaver or otter is going to go right through without a second thought. And then when they hit that pan with their belly, it's going to trigger the trap. So I'm going to try that out this coming season, and I have high hopes for that. I'll be at the Southeastern NTA here in Alabama, and hope to meet Chip there and pick up some of the pans from him at that time. So anyway, as far as I'm concerned, the 1216 is a great trap to have in your arsenal. It's not going to be my standard trap. It's not going to replace all of my other 330s. I love my Belials, and in a high theft area I still run Dukes. But these things, these are special traps. They're extremely well made. MB and Belial are the only two trap companies that I have ever not had a single problem with one of their traps out of the box. Never had to tune an MB trap, never had to fool with it. That or Belials. Get them out of the box and put them to use. So my final rating, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. And the half star off is the safeties. They're just a constant annoyance to me. And if they would do something about these safeties and put those Belial safeties on there, you'd have an absolute perfect trap. So anyway, I hope this has been useful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.